Welcome to Ghosts and Grit.
Alrighty. Hi, babe.
Hi.
Welcome to Ghosts and Grit.
Thanks for finally having me on.
Yeah, it's it's been a long time coming.
Took a marriage, a kid,
Yeah.
a few years.
Well, I just never thought you would want to do my podcast.
Of course I would.
Okay, so I've been kind of thinking all day, like, what are we going to talk about? What should we dive into? I think something we should probably talk about is, why don't you tell folks, how did we meet? Oh, and for people who are just listening, we are joined by Osbourne, who is my wife.
Hello.
We've been married a little over a year now. We have been together nearly 5.5.
5 and some change.
Yep. We have one daughter together,
Mm-hmm.
and Aree is the stepmom to our 3 other daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's the elevator breakdown of who Aree is.
The Cliff Notes.
Yeah.
So how we met?
Yes.
We met on a dating site called Raya. I believe you were actually the first. I think you were the first person that I actually went on a date with from the app.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I mean this in the best possible.
Gee, look, we're gonna start getting comments about how horrible you are to me again.
Again. I mean this in the best possible way, but I never really took the app seriously. And you and I, there wasn't a whole lot of back and forth beforehand. And I feel like I had a lot of conversations, and just there were people that I was speaking to for some time but decided never to meet. And I was kind of like, we haven't really spoken. Let's just jump in, and I mean, it'll be it's kind of like a surprise date. It was a blind date, but it was a really, really blind date.
Yeah,
that appealed to me.
Because I remember when we matched,
Mm-hmm.
we were kind of communicating back and forth on the app, not for super long.
No, not long at all.
It was maybe I would say if we texted each other more than 50 messages before we met, I would be surprised.
I would have said 3 or 4.
Yeah.
I really don't think. I think it was kind of like, hey.
I remember you said, what do you like?
Oh, yeah, I said, what are you looking for?
Yeah, like, what are you looking for out of this? Like, what's your expectation?
Yeah.
And I think I said, like, I don't know, I'm open to seeing what happens.
That was the right answer.
Yeah.
Because it could go either way, right?
Especially on that app, it's a lot of like, yeah.
Yeah. No, you weren't the first person I met up with, but
I wasn't.
you were the last one. You were the last one that I met up with. But yeah, we exchanged a few messages. We met up, I want to say, a week or 2 later. I think one of us was traveling, and
it was 2 weeks. Maybe even longer, because I remember when you texted me, like, the day that we were supposed to go on a date.
Yeah.
And you're like, are we still going on that date?
Yeah.
And I was like, sure.
I had to feel it out if I was going to go home after work and be easy, or if I was going to actually get myself ready.
Yeah. Do you remember, was it our second or third date where you ghosted me?
I took a nap.
Yeah.
After work, which is kind of what I was trying to feel out that first time. I took a nap directly after work. I think you and I had plans at 8 or 9. And
11 o'clock, I think you texted me.
She fell asleep. She worked from 9 to 5. She had to sit in an hour of traffic.
Yeah, I was bummed. I was
She fell asleep. Yeah, no, I woke up to a slew of text messages of the cricket emoji and, oh, okay. And
yeah.
And then I literally rose from my bed, zombied over to I didn't even get ready. I zombied into my car and drove to you.
Which was about
30-second drive.
30-second drive, yeah.
The 30-second drive to you. And then I think I slept over.
Yeah.
So I think
you went right back to sleep.
I went right back to sleep a few hours later.
Yeah.
It all worked out.
It all worked out.
Our first date was great.
It was. We had an epic first date. It was 8 hours.
Yeah.
We went to 3 or 4 different places.
We went and
3
got
places.
dinner,
Yeah,
then ice cream,
and
then we smoked some hookah.
yeah.
Because that was a funny conversation that we had, and we were like, should we just do that?
We just kept it going.
Yeah.
Didn't even try to get fresh with you either on that first date.
No, you dropped me off at home. I said thank you.
Mhm.
I'll be in touch.
Yeah. You'll hear from my people.
I'll be in touch. And no, I remember just smiling when I left. I was happy. I was like, that was a nice, normal date.
Yeah.
Like we did a bunch of things. We had great conversation, and it didn't feel like there was any pressure.
Mm-mm.
It was one of the first drinks, I feel like, in LA, and being in your 20s, there's always the pressure to drink on dates.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't drink, and obviously you didn't either, and that was refreshing to me because I feel like most of the dates that I'd been on, it was just like these guys getting hammered, and then it just wasn't meaningful conversation. And
is it what's it like dating in LA? It's
horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, you should know.
Well, no, but my perspective of dating in LA is very different.
Yeah, it's horrible because I feel like there's been periods of time in my life where I'm like, I don't want a relationship. I don't want to be with anyone. I just kind of want to meet people and hang out and do fun stuff, and that's it. But there's the periods of time in my life where I'm like, I want to be in a relationship. I want to have that like snuggly, cozy feeling with someone and see what happens. So when you're on that side of it, the snuggly, cozy, wanting perhaps a relationship out of it, I feel like I never quite, like, you're not, more often than not, someone's not looking for that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
Most people are not looking for that in my experience. And then I feel when I would be on the other side and not want a relationship, then you have like kind of like the stage 5 clingers who you're like, I can never see myself dating this person, even if I was in that wavelength of life. But
have you ever been a stage 5 clinger?
Of course, aren't I? In this relationship.
If you leave
when you go to the bathroom, I text you and I'm like, where'd you go?
When you coming back?
Yeah.
How long is that going to take?
Yeah. Uh-oh.
Should we tell the story about the road trip? And our friend trying to, when we nearly had a altercation.
Yeah. So can I start it?
Yes.
Can I start it off and you?
Yes.
You take it home because
Sure.
you were there at the.
Well, no, I think you should tell the whole story.
Okay, my perspective
Sure.
of the story. So I had met Jack, June 2019, and then I feel like a month or two later.
End of August.
You went on a 2-week trip though, and so we didn't see each other at the end of August. That's when you went.
Yeah.
Okay, so you went on this 2-week trip, and you had told me while you were gone, you're like, I'm going on this road trip to see my morning jacket in Colorado, right? Red Rocks, yeah. With my friend, you should totally come. Missed you, kind of thing. I had met your friend one time. He's gonna get so mad when he hears it.
But we're not gonna name check him, so it's fine.
I almost did. So after you being gone for 2 weeks, which was actually the most time that we had spent apart since we had met. Like, I feel like we were seeing each other pretty often. We go on this road trip. I don't know you like super, super well. Like, we're going on a 6-day road trip, week-long road trip. I don't know your friend at all. We're in this Sprinter van and we're driving days. Like, we're in the car for days. Was this the first or second night we get to Zion?
First night, because we drove from LA to Zion straight.
Yeah, so we get to Zion. It's dark. Remember, we get dinner, and can't believe you want to tell this story. And so then we all like, I think we had like a little fire, we chat, whatever, and then we go to bed, and the layout of the van is
It's a bunk
you
bed.
and I are on the top,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like facing
Yeah.
this way, and there's a bed underneath us. And so our bed pulled down and then his kind of pulled out.
Yeah.
So he's laying like this. And I didn't see you before that. So from my perspective, I'm like,
It's first time seeing me.
first time seeing you, kind of wanted to get it in, you
Yeah,
know?
you know, a little canoodle.
Yeah. But I could tell that you were very much like it was very quiet in the van. And
Yeah.
it was, yeah.
And
It's a bit out of character for me in such a small setting to do
Mhm.
something like that. But I was in.
and my friend, when the road trip started, he basically said, if any tomfoolery occurs, like he said, like, you're not to do it in the van if I'm asleep in the van.
Which I didn't know he said that.
Yes.
And if I had known that that was specifically said, then I probably wouldn't have.
I thought he had gone to sleep, so I was like, all right.
Well, yeah, it had been a while. I
Yeah.
think we were listening. I think even a podcast was on or
Yeah.
something. Like wasn't dead silent, and it was.
And
We were very quiet, and then all of a sudden, like
eruption.
he flies out of. He like opens up the door, and we're on like the edge of a mountain. Like you can see straight down. It's just this flat ground, and then it is a drop off.
Yeah, it's a canyon right below us.
He flies out, you fly out then. Like you chase after him, and I'm like
Clothed. I got
Yes.
clothed.
And I quickly did too, and then I was kind of like,
And what proceeded to happen was like a screaming, like near throwdown fisticuffs with one of my oldest friends on this kind of plateau range outside of Zion.
but I was so scared because I did not know your friend, and I had never seen you in a situation where you had been reactive.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of like, who the hell did I go on this road trip with? And then I go on my phone and I'm like, where's the closest like train station, airport? Like, how can I get out of this situation?
Oh, I
if
didn't know.
feel
I didn't
unsafe?
know you were like.
I was scared. I was texting Emily and I was kind of like, so this is going on. And I feel unsafe because they're yelling and they're on the edge of a cliff. And I don't know if are they the kind of people that are like
Gonna
I love a good true
a little
crime.
murder-suicide action.
Yeah. So I didn't know how that was gonna end up, but and it took a few days. And that was the awkward part is it took a couple of days. We drove to Colorado.
Yeah.
And then we
Went
stayed
right
at
to
your
the
friend's house.
Yeah. It kind of took staying with Mike and Bean, who
To
very
diffuse
old
it.
friends of mine, and like they acted as like the UN peace accord and
Yeah.
negotiated terms of peace.
And then we were okay. And like, you know, now this guy and I have a group chat with him and my friends. And when
Yeah.
you leave town, he stays at the house, and you know, it's fine.
Yeah,
But-
it's fine.
And now I understand him and I know him, and I'm like, he would throw a tantrum on the edge of a goddamn cliff, barely hanging on by a thread. But
Okay, so I want to talk about one of our sponsors, True Classic. True Classic has been a game changer for me, and I'm not just saying that because they sponsor us. They sent me a package a couple weeks ago with some jeans, t-shirts, and a sweater, and it's literally all I've been wearing. Funny thing is, my mother and father both complimented me on my outfit, which they never do because I'm not really Mr. Fashion Guy. I literally go shopping once or twice a year. And everything I was wearing was True Classic. They liked it so much that my dad insisted that I get him some of the jeans, just like the ones I'm wearing. They are insanely soft and movable. In fact, they actually feel more like sweats than jeans, and they fit perfectly on me. I have a weird shaped body, you know. I'm just awkward all around. Please head over to trueclassic.com and check it all out. They offer best-selling t-shirts, hoodies, jeans, and more in 3, 6, and 9 packs. Shirts that define your best features with the perfect fit. Snug in the arms and chest with a little extra room in the midsection. As well as fall and winter must-haves. Long-sleeve Henleys, waffle hoodies, jeans, button-ups, joggers, and so much more. And the best part is, they are a premium product at an affordable price. The holidays are here, and True Classic, ultra-comfortable, perfect-fitting essentials make for the perfect gift for you and the men in your life. So, if you're ready to upgrade your closet, shop now and unlock big savings during their huge holiday sale. Just go to my exclusive link and save. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. End the year with holiday cheer. trueclassic.com/Idaho. That's trueclassic.com/Idaho. Upgrade your wardrobe and save at trueclassic.com/Idaho.
Okay, just out of curiosity, was it when we went on our first date and I explained I had 3 children, one at the time had just turned 1.
Yeah.
Or a little over. She was, what, 15 or 16 months.
Mm-hmm.
Was that like like guy with baggage, 1 year out of a divorce, or?
You know, the divorce stuck out to me more. The kids, like you having kids, it wasn't like, oh, I gotta get out of this. I think I was kind of riding the line between, this might just not go anywhere. Like it might not, like if he's, you know, he has his 3 kids, he's just been divorced a year ago, like perhaps, you know, this isn't going to turn into anything. But I enjoyed our conversation and I thought you were funny and smart, and I just enjoyed hanging out with you. And so I was like, I feel like I always look at things black and white, and I didn't really look at it black and white. I was like, it's summertime, like let's just kind of see where it goes. And the more time I spent with you, the less it mattered to me. And then I remembered when I met them, like I met them once at a barbecue at your house, but it was very brief. They didn't know who I was, just another person at the barbecue to them. But when I really spent one-on-one time, I was like, okay, there's like, I remember laying in your bed and just looking at the ceiling and being like, there's no going back for me. And if this does end, I am going to be heartbroken times 4. And I remember having that moment and being like, I never thought that I would be someone's stepmom. I never thought that, you know, like you don't wake up and think that. And yeah, there was definitely some growing pains within that, you know.
Sure.
During that summer, especially after I met them, and growing pains with all of us.
Well, and then COVID hit, and we were all locked down together, and that really just sped things up.
I moved in during the lockdown. My apartment was extremely close to your house, and my lease was going to be up within like I think a month or 2. I got furloughed from my job, and we were just kind of like, you know, do we go that amount of time without seeing each other, or do I just come stay during that time? And then I moved my stuff in and never
moved out.
No, but even then, like I had lived with boyfriends in the past, but it had always been, you know, just one other person actually, and I had known him a very long time, and you know, so it was like that slow burn. So this was the quickest anything like that had ever happened, but the circumstances were different.
Did you find it to be a like particularly, because like, that's what I'm trying. My family's kind of intimidating.
Yeah.
Was that like a thing for you? Did you?
It wasn't a thing. I remember meeting Kelly, and she was the first person that I met. I met her the same day that I met the kids at that barbecue at your house. And she was super nice. And so it wasn't really, I mean, I have a weird brother, you know, like I have a very judgmental, protective, weird brother. So you were in a...
He might see this.
He probably will. But I mean it in the best possible way. Like, he's protective. He's seen me go through, you know, the relationships I had. So you were kind of on a similar place. But in the sense of intimidating, like, what do you mean?
Like,
just like in a meeting the family sense, or a meeting your
yeah,
family
it's not like
sense?
it's not like the typical like run of the mill family.
I didn't know who you were when I went on a date with you. I think I realized who you were 2 or 3 dates in.
What? Really?
You didn't know that?
No.
I've never seen an Osbourne episode. I knew your name, I guess. Like, I try to think back on that all the time. I'm like, did I know his name? Like, I don't know. It wasn't, but I did know who your parents were. And I do remember maybe like a week in, you were like, I've got to go drop something off at my parents' house. And I was just kind of like, okay, whatever. And then we pull in and you look at me and you're like, oh, I guess you're meeting my parents today. And then I just remember kind of being like, oh, okay, this is kind of weird. And we pull up to their house and we go through the gates and I just remember your mom being really nice. And I was like, oh, I feel like anyone else, like it wasn't really anything to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I think maybe when you said, I guess you're meeting my parents today, that kind of, I felt like a jolt through my body, like, oh God, what's that going to be like? Like, I'm a really awkward person. And I think sometimes my reservedness or shyness can come across as something different. Like, I think it can come across as bitchy or uninterested or.
Yeah, well.
And I think I was really quiet with you at the beginning too. Do you remember that? Do you remember me being kind of quiet? Because I can get that way.
I always felt like you were just kind of sat back, like watching.
Like, you just made the mini face.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm kind of like.
Yeah. Our daughter Minnie will just kind of like look at you with this.
Mm-hmm. No,
Yeah.
I can be a little reserved and shy, and yeah, that can sometimes come across as something else. So I was worried going into meeting your parents, going into meeting anybody's parent. Like, I get that way.
Yeah.
And so I guess I was kind of concerned about, like, oh God, what are they going to think of me?
Sure.
And I think about that all the time with anyone.
Because this is Ghosts and Grit, should we talk about some of the paranormal stuff we've done together? Because Aree has come to a bunch of filming of episodes of Portals to Hell, Night of Terror, pretty much everything.
Most things.
Yeah.
I went to my first Portals to Hell episode with you, I think like maybe 2 months in.
Mm-hmm.
It was in Salem. 3 months in.
It was October.
It was Salem, so
yeah.
October. And it was just very Halloween-y, and
I
remember you did like a I think it was like a live event at a bar.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys like left me in like a windowless full cement tunnel, and you guys went down and continued to film down, and I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, my body was cold. I was so scared. Like, what
was your first thought or impression when I was like, yeah, I make paranormal TV shows where I go hunt ghosts?
I love that. You know that I like, what do we watch before bed? Like, I love paranormal shows. I love true crime.
Mm-hmm.
And though I had not watched Portals to Hell, it was so exciting to be in that space on the other side of it, because like I just being in the locations, I'm the kind of person that can always feel weird things. Like when we've looked at houses in the past, I'm just like, oh yeah, like someone did something weird here.
Well,
we can't do it.
Yeah, remember when we nearly rented Mac Miller's house?
Yeah, I felt
and we didn't know it was Mac Miller's house that he tragically passed away in, and we're walking through it and Aree goes, I think this was Mac Miller's house that he passed away in.
Yeah, that was very weird. But yeah, I can walk into a house and feel weird. So taking me to these haunted locations and leaving me in a little tunnel, like a cement tunnel, and like dark, like you guys had all of the light and everything, and I just watched the light just kind of like go down and turn the corner, and I was like, nobody is sitting here with me. Like, what if this is where
it happens?
Yeah, what if this is where the action is?
Do you want to talk about some of your favorite experiences while you were with me doing shows?
Yeah. I really enjoyed growing up. My family, as you know, just always did a bunch of road trips. And so I always enjoyed that aspect of traveling with you, because when COVID hit and you began driving cross country in an RV, or you used the van for a little bit too, I would go with you, and I love that. And so I think the experiences we had outside of you filming are some of my favorite, and they're the beginning of our relationship. Like that's what set the beginning of our relationship, the foundation. And so I'm trying to think of like the places that we've been in chronological order.
Well, where did we go? Like, have you been to somewhere? Did you ever have like a profound experience when we were filming?
Place that I believe it was in Colorado.
Oh,
and we actually slept on location, and we slept in this, I don't remember what location.
The McCormick Ranch.
Okay. And we slept in this room, and there was just, I remember drapes and curtains everywhere.
Oh no, you're thinking of the of that
it was
bed and breakfast.
Yes,
yeah.
It was a bed and breakfast.
Yes. Forget the name of it, but the place was cool.
Yeah, we stayed there, and you were like, we're staying on location, and I was like, you know, that was exciting for me. I was like, that's cool. And I got there in the night, and I remember we just kind of went to bed right away, and I like the drapes and the curtains, and like I was seeing shadows moving all night long.
Really?
All night long.
Yeah, some weird stuff did happen at that place.
And I was hearing like, bring that up, Jack. No, really, bring it up. Bring it up, because I could bring up our third date real quick.
Nah.
Okay, thank you.
I don't want to get this polka jammed down my throat.
Going back to Salem, though, that was...
Yes, we stayed at a bed and breakfast there.
Yes.
Which also was like...
haunted.
Yeah, we stayed in the room that George Washington did, where he allegedly was haunted by a woman of some sort.
But Salem is where you first met Cindy. And for people just kind of catching up. Yeah, Cindy and Aree, Cindy Kaiser and Aree are really good friends. I mean, you guys speak like pretty much like every day.
We speak really often. She just sent me some of her spirit art based on my spirit guides. So we're going to have a call.
What are your spirit guides, if you feel like sharing about
well, she hasn't gone in depth with what she painted, so I don't know about that.
But,
so we should not.
But what have you been told, though?
I've been told in readings of the past that I do not have human spirit guides. They are of the alien descent.
Okay.
And that I am a starseed. And so my
what's a starseed?
It is, I'm basically an alien that in my past life I lived elsewhere and up there, and I was planted here to heal and love. That's all I'm trying to do. That's literally all I'm trying to do. And there's so many obstacles that get in the way, but allegedly that's it. And I did feel connected to that after the reading. I remember we watched a couple of YouTube videos about it. I'm like, this makes sense. All I do is love.
The only thing that bums me out about the YouTube videos on it is that everyone's just fucking nuts that talks about stuff.
Well, right. And that's why I don't even want to talk about it, because I'm like, I don't want to be grouped. And when I got the reading, the last one, she was like, don't look it up, because it's like it's going to seem culty. It's going to seem weird. The people that make videos about it are strange most of the time. And so, you know, you don't even need to go there. But I think what I took from that's interesting is I was born with a little birthmark on my forehead. And I guess that's some sign of it. And our daughter was as well. So...
And isn't the whole thing about, like, you have blue eyes?
Blue eyes is a big thing, kind of fair skin, and...
You're like a Nordic alien.
That's kind of
the vibe, right?
That's the vibe, yeah. But Cindy, going back to Cindy, I met Cindy on that Portals to Hell trip.
I can remember Cindy texting me right when you met her in Salem. And like a couple days later, she texts me. She's like, oh, she said something along the lines of like, oh, that's a good one. And I can see why you're with her. I was like, oh, okay.
And then I did a reading with her a couple months later.
What was the reading?
It was interesting. There was people that I wanted to connect with. I'm like, you know, maybe that's kind of what this reading will be, is she'll connect. They didn't come up. But I remember my dad's dad, very loud and very, he was very much there. And that was someone that died when I was a year or two.
Mm.
And so I didn't have any sort of relationship with him. And so but the things that he was saying was interesting, because there's just like a lot of family shit that he was talking about and he was sick of. And
were you a believer in the paranormal kind of just before we were dating, or was that something that
I loved the shows like that, like ghost hunting shows, and I just loved scary movies, paranormal scary movies, but I had never really had a paranormal experience until I moved in with you.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah, so never had sleep paralysis all my 28 years at that point. And I remember maybe it was when I just started sleeping over, maybe it wasn't when I moved in, but I remember waking up every single time and I was in full sleep paralysis and a woman right here every single time.
What'd she look like?
I mean, I would never really I was kind of scared. So I would never really look, but there was a hat, there was a dress. Like, I remember it being very colonial woman on the wing. And it was very, and then at one point I did start waking up and she would still be there. And do you remember when Pearl woke up one time and she was like, there's this woman, she's in like a Victorian kind of dress and she has, I'm like, what? You're describing who I've been seeing. And so when I would sleep over and when I moved in, it was a lot of like, I don't know, I feel like there was a lot of activity like every night. And it started happening to you too more.
Yeah, there was a shit ton of stuff that was happening in that time period.
I don't feel like you were cleansing yourself in between coming home, and I feel like that.
Yeah, no, that was a really, really strange time, because that house we were in was not.
No.
It was not old. It was brand new.
Yeah.
I have. The only thing I could think of was I had brought something into the house that had attachments, or there was, just because of doing like ghost hunt after ghost hunt after ghost hunt, because during this time period, Travel Channel had ordered 20 episodes. So it was
back to back.
Every week we were doing like 2 ghost hunts, like boom, 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 boom. And it was a lot. And I think I was just exposed to so much and I was so kind of opened to it. And I'd done some we'd done some stuff. And, I can remember Michelle did some like weird, in Salem actually, she did that weird Egyptian like summoning ceremony. And she opened me up and she said, she's like, I know you're in the middle of your season, so I won't shut you down yet. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so I think that played a huge role in the activity. And the way that I kind of chalked it up was, it was like I had like a beacon going off and stuff was just being drawn to me.
Yeah.
And it's the only time that happened. It has happened, really. There's been a few things here and there, but it was consistent for a few months.
I remember every morning we'd wake up and like I would go to work and then you and I would text and we'd be like, what happened?
Yeah.
With you.
This episode is sponsored by Vionic. Winter is right around the corner, which means cooling weather and more time on the go. Vionic has the best essential styles for everyday wear to get you ready for the season. Slippers, flats, boots, sneakers, and more. Now, when my wife heard that Vionic was sponsoring the show, she was over the moon. She immediately jumped online and ordered herself a pair of the Fallbrook knee-high boots, as well as the Aria wedge ankle boots. Now, she's been living in them ever since. She has not taken them off. They're the perfect fit for wearing around the ranch, and they're also really cozy. I've had my feet firmly planted in my very own pair of Uptown Chukka boot. I can't quite get enough of them. There's zero break-in time, and I can wear them around town as well as tackling projects on the property. They're kind of like the mullet of boots, you know, business up front, party out back. So don't just listen to me raving about it. Go check out Vionic for yourself. Use my code Idaho at the checkout for 50% off your entire order at www.vionicshoes.com. That's VIONIC shoes.com. It's one-time use only. Vionic shoes, wearable well-being for your feet.
One night I heard my name being called out. As clear as day, it sounded like someone just yelled out, Jack! Yeah. And I remember I sat up and I was like, I sat up and I was like, who's that? And then another night I was asleep and it felt like something grabbed my foot and tugged it. And then I got up to pee one night and I saw this cloaked figure just stood in the corner of the room, just looking at the bed.
Yeah,
it
was in the corner.
It looked like a Dementor from Harry Potter. Like this, just a big cloak, and it was just stood, not moving. And I can remember walking back to bed, and I looked at it, and I just remember saying to myself, oh, fuck, I'm not dealing with this. And I just got into bed and just closed my eyes.
That's kind of the mindset. Like, I didn't ever feel scared. I mean, sleep paralysis. Have you ever had it before?
Well, the only time I have ever had it
was then.
Yeah. And I saw the cloaked figure and I saw the Old Hag.
Yeah.
Now, for people that don't know, the Old Hag is something that occurs a lot with sleep paralysis, where people are in this kind of comatose state. They cannot move. Their eyes are open, or they believe their eyes are open, and they see this old hag, like an old woman with like kind of wet, greasy hair. A lot of people say that she sat on their chest, but that wasn't my experience. I can remember waking up, and the strange thing was, it was a night when, for some reason, I was on your side of the bed. I think just with the kids in the bed, I think whatever, like I remember I was on, at that time, it would have been facing the TV. It was the left-hand side of the bed because I always slept near the door.
Yeah.
And I remember waking up, knowing I was awake, my eyes were closed, and I was thinking, I felt really scared. And I was like, what? There's something in the room right now. And I opened up my eyes, and my head was like this, and I managed to just kind of crank my eyes over, and I could see, the first thing I saw was the big cloaked shadow figure. Couldn't make out a face because the cloak was just black. And then I looked and I saw the Old Hag just leaning over me. And the weirdest thing, I had this roommate for a very long time. Her name was Hannah, many years ago. And she used to get a lot of sleep paralysis, and she said the only way that she could get rid of it when she had it, and she saw things sat on her chest, she was having really crazy stuff. She said she would just recite the Lord's Prayer and it would go away. And it's the only thing that popped into my head, and I closed my eyes and I just started like saying the Lord's Prayer in my head, and it fucking worked.
I do the toe wiggle method.
You do the toe wiggle?
Yeah, do you know about that?
Yeah,
you start wiggling your toes, and then you try to get to your knees and then your fingertips, and then soon you're like shaken out of it. But I just remembered just now that it did happen to me recently. And do you remember when I woke up and I was like, was I screaming your name and you were telling me you'll wake up soon?
No.
Remember I asked you that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, did you actually hear me? Were you telling me you'll wake up soon? But it hadn't happened since that house and that time. And
do you think it is a psychological phenomenon, or do you think it actually could be paranormal?
I think there's things all around us right now, and I think that you kind of have to shift into a different place. And like dreaming and sleeping, I mean, I personally I feel like I receive messages, or
you get a lot of stuff in your dreams.
Yeah, my sleep is never like calm and simple. Like I feel like when I'm actually dreaming, my dreams mean something. So I feel like when I'm kind of in that, like it makes sense. Like I'm in that dream state, and so I'm seeing what maybe is already there. You're just kind of shifting your perspective.
What did something happen recently? Was that something? one of us woke up in the middle of the night.
Yeah, the other night we were watching like the scariest.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But I'll tell you what's weird about that. Do you remember anything weird about that?
I remember
Or do you remember what we watched?
we watched like 50 scariest things caught on, whatever, on YouTube. I was some paranormal. Yeah.
And it was like 2 hours long, and we both fell asleep. And I don't know what time you woke up, but you woke up to like, because there was kind of like an alarm that was going on and off and on and off on whatever video we were watching. I don't know if it was crazier because we were like awoken and that's what we were looking at, but it was just a pink screen, and it just had the time 3:15 a.m. on it, and it was just going meh, 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 over and over, and you sat up and you were like, what the fuck is going on? What is that? What is that? And I was like, I think it's the TV. I don't know. But then we immediately turned it off, but I think it's weird. Like, was it 3:15?
Oh, it could have been.
Was it like, because that's the bewitching hour. Like, that's a spooky time anyways.
It could have been.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't know how long the alarm was going on and off and on and off. Because it felt like it was forever. And it just said 3:15 on the screen. It was weird.
Yeah, very weird.
But we haven't really, I mean, we could go into like the last time everyone felt a little weird, but I don't know if we want to talk about it here. With Devin's birthday gift. Do we want to talk about that?
Yeah. That was fucking weird. I guess it's not weird. So
I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
So Devin, Aree's brother, loves oddities, and he's into kind of collecting weird things and taxidermy, and it's just kind of like a fun thing him and I will like talk about in Aree. It's just like we're weird. And for his birthday / Christmas gift, I managed to buy him we bought him a real human skull. And people are going to listen to this being like, what the
I know,
fuck?
I like don't even know if
it
we
is
should
totally
talk about
legal
it.
to own
It's okay.
human bones.
Go
Like
ahead
there's
and
you
report
could
us.
buy them on eBay. Like there's nothing illegal about it. It doesn't mean it's normal to do.
It also doesn't mean that it's like, I can't think of the word that I'm thinking of. Like, I feel like it's not necessarily respecting the dead.
No, but but how the problem is, well, the argument to that point is, what if it was someone that donated their body to science upon death? They know that their body is going to be used for something.
Well, that's what it was.
It wasn't. The skull wasn't that.
No, but it then was.
Oh, it then was?
It then what? I mean, based on what the skull told us.
Okay, yeah. So why don't you go into tell us.
No, you have to tell this story about when you brought it home.
Sure.
I was out of town with Maple visiting my grandma.
Yes, Aree was out of town visiting her grandma. The skull had been shipped to me. And I was like super excited to like open up this, and there's this fucking crazy skull that it was like in some kind of weird lacquer. Like it's not just like white bone. It had been like lacquered.
And that had yellowed, and that had browned.
Yeah. And it just looked weird.
Yeah.
And I just didn't think anything of it. I mean, I say it all the time. I love ghost hunting. I love the paranormal, but I don't pick up on things very easily. Like, Aree could walk into a space and go, oh, something fucked up happened here, or oh, there's some weird. She'll pick it up instantly. Me, I'm like, oh, this place is cool. Most of the time. Sometimes
I'm like, we gotta get out of here, and you're like, why?
And I just thought nothing of it. Aree comes home and
no, you left.
I did.
You left town, and Maple and I get home after you had left.
That's right.
But that first night that it was there, you had experienced something.
Well, I don't remember what it was now. Why am I forgetting it?
Because okay. Do you want me to tell you?
Yeah, tell me,
what you told me?
Yeah.
you said that you heard walking up and down the hallway like all night long, and
Yes,
you heard
that
like
is-
whispers.
Yes.
And then the kids wound up waking up the next day and telling you the same thing. Like, hey,
Yes.
like, did someone come over last night? Or,
Totally forgot that, but you're 100% right. Yeah, that did happen.
and then you leave that next day. The kids go back to their mom, and then Maple and I get home. And I remember we landed at like 9 or 10. And as we were getting closer to the house, I texted Devin and I was like, can you just come get it tonight? Like, I have a really uneasy feeling. Like, I don't want to.
Yeah, you would.
I was
you
like,
were
we got to get
tripping
it
on
out of the house. And he was like, I'm busy. I can't. And I'm like, you got to come pick it up tonight. I don't care if it's at midnight. Like, I will wait up for you. You're coming and getting it. And I remember getting into the house and I just felt weird. And I was like, I'm just going to take a shower. And I kept, like, when I was taking a shower, I'm like, it felt like someone else was there besides Maple and I. And he comes and he takes it. And, you know, he's really happy about it. And I saged and Palo Santo the hell out of the house. And then he calls us a couple of days later and he's like sweating, crying, freaking out. And this guy is not scared of anything. Like, he has dealt with so much paranormal shit that he actually welcomes it into his home. Like, he's like, anything dark or light, come on in.
Preferably
And-
dark.
Yeah. But he could not handle this thing. He was like, this is something that is not crossed over.
He
You
had
know,
details.
I'm giving it cigarettes and glasses
Whiskey.
of whiskey every night to calm it down. It's like it was showing up in his dreams. He just like, my mom walked in at one point and like,
Passed out.
yeah, like it.
She touched it and passed out,
Yeah.
didn't she?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that went on for a very long time. And Devin and I, the reason why I allegedly know about that skull then being put to like towards research and stuff was what is it called?
Medical research.
Medical research was because we did a Ouija board. We did a Ouija board, and I don't know who was messing with who or whatever, but we paired it with some tarot cards, and
You got like details.
we got details. I cried at one point. My brother's like, he's got chills all over.
You're a crier.
That's normal, but I'm not gonna cry over a skull. How can a skull hurt my feelings unless it's something I'm actually feeling? But yeah, we got his name and we got the fact that his skull was found and he was kind of like short on the money end and he owed a lot of people money and he got kind of wrapped up in a bad group of people trying to like pay Peter, you know, like the whole thing. And he wound up being stabbed in an alleyway in London in whatever, I don't know. And he never was able to cross over.
Do you think he's crossed over yet?
Devin says he has.
Oh.
He says that it's kind of all died down. And now he says when he sees him in his dreams, he's actually a human.
Interesting. So he's still having dreams of him.
Yeah, but I think he's just kind of checking in.
Hey, how's my skull doing?
At this point.
What do you think ghosts are?
I think that ghosts are, I feel like you kind of fucked me up with your version of it.
How so?
Because it goes against my theory, but it's kind of, I guess it's kind of the same thing. Like, I believe that ghosts are the feelings and the memories of a time.
So you think that it's the residual side of things?
Yes, but I never looked at it as like the residual, like there's not something that's actively here, because I still believe that it's something that is actively here, but you're kind of in a different dimension of it actively being there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm just really on this simulation theory.
Well, yeah, and that's also just kind of like when you go down that rabbit hole, and we've watched a lot of videos on that sense, and you and I have listened to podcasts and kind of talked about that a lot, but it's, yeah, that sort of shifts my perspective on a lot of things. Because it does make sense, right?
Yeah, I was listening to something today and they were explaining this concept called like the the cat in the box concept, like theory. And it's a theoretical experiment. You put a cat in a box, and in the box is a type of poison that it is a 50-50 chance that will kill the cat.
Mm-hmm.
And so that means that it's either alive or dead inside the box. But you don't know if it's alive or dead until you look at it. And it kind of talks, it's into the kind of, leaning into the whole rendered, not rendered, like, you know, if a tree falls in the woods and no one's there to hear it, does it make a sound kind of thing. And it just kind of fucked me up because the way it was being explained was, it is entirely possible that both are occurring at the exact same time. It just comes down to, is the simulation going to render the cat alive or dead?
Exactly.
Because they're both, you know, there has to be a decision to be made.
Yeah.
And who's making that decision?
I mean, this is the end of the podcast, right? But like, this could actually, because then you can get into my favorite topic with the Mandela effect, because that goes alongside
100%.
that.
The Mandela effect is absolutely connected to the simulation theory,
which is a whole crazy thing. If you ever want to have me on again, we can talk about that, because that's one of my most favorite things.
The Mandela effect?
Yeah,
it's pretty wild.
It's one of my favorite
I used to just think it was like meh, but
no,
there's some fucking weird shit.
And there's stuff involving your dad too.
There is?
With the Shazam Kazam movie thing. Like, there's something about, like, he had a song in the film, but the fake film. I don't know which one was the real film. Which one was the real film? Shazam.
I don't remember.
Kazam.
I don't remember. The Sinbad, I don't know.
No, but that's not real. There's no Sinbad.
I know. Sinbad was never, but I swear to God, I saw a movie where Sinbad played a genie.
Trust me, the Berenstein Bears.
Do you know why?
Okay, I think
I figured out the Berenstein Bears and the Berenstain Bears, or whatever it is. The intro song to the show says
that
both,
Maple watches now.
Yes, says both Berenstain. What is it? What's it really called? It's Berenstein.
Initially, everyone thought it was Berenstein, so Stein. And now, I guess it's Stain. I say and now because there's not a chance that it wasn't anything different.
In the intro song, they say both Berenstein and Berenstain.
Because they're like singing it with a country accent.
Yes. So that's where I think the confusion happened, is the song to the intro says Berenstein.
No, I can clear as day see. I read the books as a kid. I had all the little chapter books. It was like my first chapter book series I read. Anyways, that would be a whole little thing, but I think it works, yes.
But where I'm landing with the paranormal is, I do believe this is some kind of simulation. The interesting thing about this being a simulation, I believe, leans into the existence of God, because something created the simulation that we are all in. And I believe that I'm starting to think that UFOs or UAPs or whatever, you know, weird things we're seeing are the controllers of the simulation interacting with the simulation. Kind of, you know, they could be fixing problems, they could be observing us, it's the way that they can turn up.
Yeah.
I think that more evidence for it is, you know, in ghosts, paranormal. Why wouldn't a video game programmer, right, go, I can program some ghosts, weird shit that appears. You know, oh, what was that? Did you see that? I didn't, but the person next to you did. Like, why not? I've played video games where there's strange kind of Easter eggs like that sprinkled all throughout the game.
Yeah. And I feel like I take notice, especially after, you know, we've kind of listened to some stuff about this, but the Easter eggs in life too. Like, I'm seeing so many things in my day-to-day life where I'm like, that's funny. Like, they planted that there.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm a crazy person, but I'm like, they planted that there because, like, that would be really, like, sickly funny for me to have to deal with. Or
I think the simulation theory can also explain psychics and how they have the ability to appear to read people's minds or to tell about people's past, because I think they have an ability to tap into the code. Like, I can access your code, therefore I can read your hard drive, if that makes sense.
But what does that look like to them? Cindy, what is Cindy? What's going on in Cindy's head when she's...
I think it's, for them, it's normal. It's just the way that they are. Their CPU, it's the way it operates.
My head hurts.
Because everything could be in a cloud.
No, I know.
And I can access my computer from another computer halfway across the world. So why can't that happen on a human level?
Yeah.
I mean, it gets real fucking
I told
weird.
you that book that I read when I was a kid. I mean, we could go on for hours, but that book that I read when I was a kid is about just this.
Yeah.
Except for it was more kind of like Truman Show sort of thing at the same time, but it's... Yeah. It's a lot. I have so much to say, but
say it.
I know, because I don't know where to start. Like, my head gets real jumbly. I have to like, it's a lot. But I think in some shape or form, it is that
Simulation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. 100%. I've experienced things, I've seen things that I'm like, no, it's all just a simulation.
And you can truly just summarize it in, if a tree falls in the middle of the forest, just share the atom.
Oh, the double split.
Yeah, because that's kind of what got me.
The double split experiment. I'm going to do a terrible job explaining this.
I know, that's why I didn't want to.
So there was an experiment done where they wanted to see if they fired particles through a slit, if they moved like waves, or if they moved... They were trying to observe how they would function going through like a slit. And then they were catching the particles with some kind of board behind it. The experiment went just fine, whatever. They saw how the particles hit the board and it was all in a straight line like they'd gone through. And then they were like, all right, let's have it pass through 2 slits and see what happens. Well, when they passed through 2 slits, the particles moved like waves. And they didn't quite understand it. That was when it was being observed. When it wasn't observed, the particles arranged themselves completely differently. And scientists and like physicists were like, how is that possible? When we're looking at it, it does one thing, and when we don't look at it, it does something else. So this physicist came up with an idea about, well, what if we start observing it midway through the experiment, like once the particle had passed through the slit? So they did it. And they turned on the detection devices and the ways that they observe it right at the point when the particle went through the double slit. They determined that the particles reversed, went back in time, and changed the way they moved through the slits. So it kind of opens up this whole theory of the observable world versus the unobservable world, and does something, and then it leans into the rendering, that you would deal with in video games. Yeah. When you're playing Call of Duty, level 5 is not rendered yet because you're only on level 2. And it's not until you get to level 5 does it render. It's not like it's existing just while you're in your world. So the concept with it is that these particles do very different things when they're observed versus when they're not observed.
Maybe this isn't the same thing, but in video games that I've played in the past, where if you can pick up a tool and use it, kind of looks a little different than an object in the game that you can't use.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Very true. Yeah. Yeah. Like there's the stuff you can interact with versus the stuff you can't.
The stuff you can interact with and the stuff you can't.
Yeah. And I think that there is
same sort of thing.
Yeah, I think there's something to it. I don't know what that is. I don't know. We'll probably never get the answers. I feel like only when you probably
would do an abundance of psychedelics, could you ever get close to the answer? But, you know.
I mean, it plays into, I've always believed in reincarnation, and so I feel like it plays into that.
Yeah.
You lose your life in life, and then you come back as a different character.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good note to end this campfire tale. Oh, you know what this is like? Are You Afraid of the Dark? Remember that show?
Yeah.
Yeah. Told ghost
Yeah,
stories by the
Fireside
campfire.
Chat.
Fire is going out.
Let's go watch some true crime in bed.
Yeah, we're gonna go get stuck into that.